We have been listening or been exposed to so many confessions that baffles us in so many ways. And sometimes you ask yourself, what at all is this world getting to? Why do I start this episode with this statement? The more you start to hear about things that are going on in the body of Christ, you then begin to ask yourself, where do these people calling themselves as men of God really do come from? Have they really been called by God? Or they see this as a chance to make money of the innocent congregations? Or it is the making of the evil one, to try as much as possible to turn the heart of many from their Maker? These are some of the questions that do come to mind when I see or hear some of these things going on in the Christian faith. Hello brothers and sisters, welcome to another episode here on Dangerous African Confessions HD. In this episode, we have a story from one of our mothers. The reason I use the word mother is because she is matured enough to be a mother, an aside that leads a number of people. And these people look up to her as a mother to them. So therefore, I felt it is right to call her a mother. And today, she wants to share with us the things she did and encountered before she came back to the right path. She said that, brother, I went off the beautiful path I was walking on with God. And I let the beauty and the riches of this world blindfolded me into things I was not supposed to do. I wouldn't want to take much of your time, so let us all go and listen to what our dear mother has for us.
Before I start this conversation with you all, I would love to say a very big thank you to you and your team for what you are doing. Someone might not understand it, but coming from where I'm coming to talk about, I feel the need for places like this, where people can share what they have been through and done. Either good or bad, to serve as a motivation or a warning to our dear brothers and sisters, fathers and mother, and even our children out there, so they can make some informed decisions about where to go when they are seeking the face of the Lord. So, keep on with the work that you people are doing. People are gradually becoming aware of some of the things that goes on. With that said, whatever I'm going to discuss with you today is my life and I am okay to share with you. But please do me a favor and don't disclose my identity. Reason is that I do not want to bring shame to my husband and children. The fact that my husband knows about what I am going to talk to you about does not mean that I should do something that will put his name in a place where he wouldn't be comfortable. What I have put him through these years is enough. I do not want any more mistakes to be done on my part in this marriage. If I was asleep previously, I am now awake and ready to share my life story, but with much respect to the man who, after all this, has taken me back as his wife. I thank him and always pray for God's grace and blessings upon his life. Again, whoever I might have wronged in these years, I really say I am sorry, and from the bottom of my heart, I pray for your forgiveness. Whoever also looked up to me as a mentor, I did let you down along the line. Because of that, I am sorry. Now let me start by saying that I started ministry even before I met my husband and we got married. I think 3 years into my ministry is when we got married. Things were all well as far as a wife and a husband were concerned. My husband back then, before becoming my husband, was a member of a different church. So even after we got married, we kept that relationship he had with his old church. The reason was that his senior pastor had been in ministry for so long, and because of that relationship he has with the man, we believed he was going to be so much instrumental in our ministry as well. My husband was one of the special aides to the pastor I am talking about. So they did had some close relationship, and it was such a beautiful one. And for this reason, when we got married, my husband had a discussion with me about me connecting or establishing a close relationship with his pastor, which he said was to help me connect with the other senior pastors the pastor knows. And as such, he did well and made a proper introduction with the pastor, and the man also agreed to take me as a daughter in the Lord. So what happened after the introduction was that he made me to organize a program, and he made me to put his picture on it and one other senior pastor of his. Even though it had not been long since I started ministry, the church auditorium was decorated nicely. So it wasn't difficult attracting these big men of the faith to come and minister to the congregation. This is what got me to move fast in this pastoral world. Within a short period of time, things started on the right road that I was praying to God to provide in my ministry. Now one will say that this is nothing to feel sorry about. Yes, I know, if only I knew my association with my husband's pastor would change me so much, I wouldn't have gotten myself involved with him in the first place. Because looking at the angle my husband was coming from, he wanted this love between a father and a daughter kind of love between me and his pastor. But it turned out to be something more than he bargained for. The thing that happened was that, after they did that program for me, he told me that he wanted to anoint me and usher me into a different realm of ministration. He wanted to open the higher realms for me. This was a welcoming idea for me and even my husband. So I started going to him for guidance and direction. I remember very well, just as I'm recounting what really happened between him and myself, it is as if everything is happening right in front of me. That very day when I got to his office, he was not around, and so he asked me to wait for him for some few minutes, because he was going to be there in some few minutes. Just as he had told me, he didn't keep long and came to meet me. When we were at his office and he had laid his hands on me after some few studies, I felt some strange feeling within myself. The next thing I knew was that we were making out in his office. After making out in his office, he promised me that he was going to help me reach any heights that I wanted to get to in ministry. One thing is that it never occurred to me that I was even a married woman when I was in front of him. This was the beginning of our relationship, even though I was a wife to his son in the Lord. This relationship with this pastor led me into having multiple men aside him and aside my husband. This relationship with this senior pastor had become something that was something I was keen on, and was enjoying even more than my marriage with my husband. This started bringing issues between my husband and myself. And then, he would then make a complaint about me to his pastor, thinking he was going to do anything about my behavior. He had now connected me to other senior pastors who I was also having secret romantic relationships with. And it wasn't like he didn't know. This pastor knew about my relationship with these other pastors, but never mind. He will introduce me to his wife and kids as her spiritual daughter and as a wife to my husband. Meanwhile, he is the one who will be enjoying me. He then called me one day and told me that he wanted me to start to prophesy same way as he does, and would love to help me out. At this point, anything that he says, I was all over it more than anything in this world. I will say that he had total control over my life as if he was my God. I practically did anything he told me to do. There are things that he has made me to do that, under normal circumstances, I would never involve myself with. Example is when he introduced his other pastor friends to me and said that I could go out with them. It is something that I wouldn't have gone even close to, but for whatever reason, I obeyed and they all had their way with me, even when they all knew that I was a married woman and a leader of a church. When it comes to facing the circumstances and the aftermath of our action like pregnancy, I have dealt with about 7 different abortions for these relationships I had with these pastors. My husband and I do have 1 child, and if I recount the number of abortions I have done, it tears me apart. During these periods, I never gave myself to my husband to have any intimate relationship with me. Even when I was legally married to him. He ended up separating himself from our matrimonial room and settled in one of the rooms in our house. Honestly, if I think about the things I have done to my husband, and he still took me back as his wife, I sometimes ask myself if he has something hidden behind that decision he took. He told me not to let our family members know about the issues, and the people that knows about it should just be there. For he didn't want the issues to spread beyond where it is already. Something that I want to emphasize is that I know I went off the road that the good Lord put me on. This is because of my yearnings for the things of the world. Had I not want to be connected with this pastor and his people and just focused on the things that I was doing prior to meeting my husband, there would not have been this story in the first place. But then, I take solace in the fact that, my story will serve as a lesson to any young woman out there in the ministry who is facing similar things that I went through, that, when taking decisions like this, it is always right to consult your Lord who appointed you to serve His people. But in all of this, my husband never in any way fought me nor said something that I can say that he did insulted me. No, he didn't do any of such things. All he thought was that it was because now my name was becoming big, and the fact that I have now gotten to a point where I was being known over is the cause of my sudden change in my duties as a married woman. But little did he know that it was as a result of his own introduction, and the man he so much trusted is the same man eating his own food that is rightfully his. I wouldn't say that I was introduced to any occultic powers or spirits. But what this man told me was that he needed to organize a meeting for me to meet his own spiritual gurus, who he said were responsible for making him who he was. So he told me to get ready, and after about 2 weeks, we were going to go to meet them. I said okay to him. Mind you, at this point anything that he would tell me to do, it was just like magic. I would do without thinking. That evening after I had gone home to rest, as usual, we did have fun. I know you understand what I mean by we did have fun. And in having this intimacy, he does not take me just from the normal way that you all know about. This man in particular likes to always take me from the behind. I mean, my butthole is the one that he always enjoyed to take me from. It is only when he is about to come that he will come and finish it in the normal hole. So by so doing, he made me to start to enjoy that place more than having it through the normal way. And knowing my husband to be someone who will never have me from that place, it was more interesting and fun for me to have anything to do with him. So that evening when I was home, I had a call from one pastor that I knew back in my time at the theology school. He called me and said he wanted to meet me. So I gave him time that we can meet in the next day. So I met this friend of mine, and he told me about a revelation that he has had about me. He said that someone that I respect so much is taking me to a place of my doom. He said that I have been asked to go to a place for some that I have no idea of what it is. I was very quiet and shocked. But I pretended and listened to what he was saying. He told me that, in his vision, he saw me at a place where I was in a company of about 5 men, and all of a sudden then they changed into a serpent and they started chasing after me as I was running. And in the mix of the men that turned into the serpent was the very person that took me to that place. So, he wanted to warn me to be very careful with any man I am following. If there is something like that, I should pray over it before I go. And just as we were done and were about to leave, he looked at me and asked, why am I doing that to my husband? I asked what he meant by that. He told me that he can see the souls of my husband standing next to me crying and asking why I am killing him slowly. He told me to be very careful if there is anything that I was doing that is against my husband, because his tears has touched the spirits and it might end up affecting me badly.
Don't forget to please subscribe, share and like our videos. Kindly hit the notification bell so you will be the first to get notification to our videos when we upload. Like I always say, these are not just stories for story's sake. They are meant for us not to make these mistakes our brothers and sisters are making. That's why we share these stories with you. After listening to this story, I will say that I leave everything to our viewers to foment and share their experiences with us, or if only you have experienced something like this. Again, I would like to stress that we do not have any motive, but we are here to help our innocent brothers and sisters to realize what is happening out there that they do not have any idea about, so that they can make their own decisions going forward in their walk with Christ. The only thing I can say is that, know Christ for yourself. Because it takes you to discover yourself, and nobody else. Let me talk about what really is happening in this generation. Our people and loved ones are gradually being deceived into thinking that pastors cannot make mistakes, and as if they cannot also do things that are dangerous. With the kind of confessions that are coming in, and we are compiling to give to you, our dear listeners, it will shock you to know the dangerous and some astonishing things some pastors are doing out there. I always say that, Know the God your Lord for yourself. And do not see God from someone's perspective. Because you might not know their sources and the kind of things they do behind the scenes before they come and tell you the supposed word of God. We will continue with what our brother have been discussing with us in the next episode. I just hope that we honestly take the important lessons from these stories to better our lives and decisions. I pray that we learn from some of these stories and live a better life. If not for anything at all, it pays to live a decent and better life. Stay blessed and be safe. Thanks for being a part of this growing family. Kindly share your thought with us in the comment section below. And if you are new here, please subscribe, like and share.